Some of the most legendary muscle cars have been produced in America, Detroit to be specific. Out of the many muscle cars produced in Detroit, how many of those would make it to the list of the greatest? In today's video, we're about to take you through a list of 10 of the greatest full-size classic muscle cars produced in Detroit. Before we buckle up, make sure to like and subscribe if you love cars. 10. Mercury Marauder X100. Mercury may not be the most popular car brand known to man these days, but back in the 60s, it sure had some impeccable value. In fact, it was even considered a bit of a luxury ride. With Mercury was sure as hell one heck of a muscle car, but around 1969 the fancier Mercury cars were nearly put to a halt. That's when a new model was launched. Mercury had seen a vision for this new model becoming another luxury car. The Marauder boasted features like concealed headlights and a sloping rear end with concave rear glass and an enormous front end. It was a rather larger car than the other models in the luxury department for Mercury. To tackle the competition with other models, Mercury introduced us to the Marauder X100, which was an incredible upgrade to the prior mode. It came with a 429 V8 engine delivering 360 HP and a heavy-duty suspension. Something that stood out about this model was the bucket seats and fender skirts. It's safe to say that the weight of the car may have altered its performance in a way, but nevertheless, it sure was a very respectable muscle car. 9. Buick Wildcat. In 1962, Buick came up with the Wildcat, and it turned out to be one of the very first personal luxury coupes. This beauty of a vehicle featured an impressive performance-tuned engine with several other fascinating options. Buick was always known to provide more luxurious options, and it did so with the Wildcat as well. As all the youngsters craved a model which outdid both performance while having the appearance of a sports car, Buick came up with exactly that. Available as a regular 4-door hardtop, 2-door coupe or convertible, the Wildcat was a separate model. 8. Ford 7-liter. Even to this day, Mustangs are probably the most famous Fords, and this was the case even in the 60s. The 60s had one such model that most of us haven't really got to know much about, and that, my friends, is the Ford 7-liter. Once one of the best luxury model muscle cars of the time, is now just a forgotten myth. This powerful car had a very short history but was a star during its time. It featured Ford's new engine with 428 CID, which was an upgrade to its prior engines. This fierce street engine provided lots of horsepower and torque. 7. Chevrolet Impala SS. Anyone who is familiar with age-old muscle cars has got to have an idea of the Impala SS. This model, back in its time, was the definition of an ideal muscle car. Back in the day, it was known as one of the first ever high-performance automobiles that was not only affordable, but also had an incredible top speed. It in fact featured a 409 truck engine, and the unit was so powerful, other vehicles did not even stand a chance at competing with this one. It just gets better from here with number 5 on the list. Stay focused. 6. Chrysler 300 Hearst. Chrysler took the automobile industry by storm with its letter cars. This array of powered coupes and convertibles were produced from 1955 to 1965. However, production took a fall, and not everyone appreciated the bespoke interiors, leather upholstery, and of course, incredibly fierce engines. The fall in production got only worse from there, and finally in 1965 it had come to a close. This left everyone to assume that one of these beauties would never be released ever again, but that definitely was not the case. 1970 brought a special limited edition 300 Hearst that brought out all the best features of a Chrysler muscle car. 500 of these vehicles were produced with the assistance of a famous transmission company called the Hearst. So now you know where the name has come from. What made the Hearst so special was its stylish white and gold paint job. The interiors matched with it too, definitely making it eye candy in the automobile industry. It featured a 440 V8 engine with 395 HP that could push the vehicle to incredible speeds. However, this model didn't last more than a year and turned out to be lost among the forgotten list of muscle cars. But anyone who ever rode that beauty is never going to forget its top-notch performance and stylish design. 5. Pontiac Catalina 2+2. The 60s had some incredible cars, and in the mid-60s, the Pontiac GTO was one such car. In fact, it was one of the very first muscle cars. It outdid so many wonderful cars with its impeccable performance and beastly engine. Not to mention, it was a car of style. Both the interiors and the exteriors stood out. Later in the year 1965, another one of the same model was released, and that is the full-size Catalina model we have on our list. This car is available as both a coupe or a convertible, but there's a little more surprise to this one. The performance varies in both models, making it a variety to choose from. The ordinary Catalina in itself looked incredibly posh and made it to a satisfying level of productivity. The 2+2, however, was just a massive upgrade from the ordinary. 4. Plymouth Fury GT. We all know that brand Plymouth was only ever meant to be not more than an economy brand for the Chrysler Corporation, but guess what? It was way more than just that. The Plymouth had produced a significantly large number of muscle cars during the 60s and 70s, and they were of a large ranged variety too. The one that Plymouth considered the most luxurious was the GTX, but that took a turn in 1970. In 1970, the Fury GT made its release as the biggest model for sale, and this caught everyone's attention. This model was another one of the coupe versions of the Fury sedan, which came with only 2 doors. It was a fully styled, aggressive-looking muscle car, which did not lack in either design or ability. It came with a 440 V8 engine, accompanied by a 3-carburetor design and 375 HP on tap. Every buyer had the option to choose between either the 727 Torque-Flight automatic and the 4-speed manual. But it was indeed the manual that brought out the actual performance in the car. But sadly, there were a few drawbacks to this model, as it did not exactly justify its claims made on performance and looks. Its heaviness had a lot to do with holding it back from reaching its maximum level of performance. And it did not make it any easier that the Fury GT came with a hefty and unaffordable price tag. To put it in simpler words, neither did it perform nor did it sell that well, after which we can predict the rest. In just 1 year of production, Plymouth decided to stop this model. 3. Oldsmobile Starfire. There's a little backstory to this one car here. Believe it or not, it was the Oldsmobile that even brought a start to the whole muscle car scene. But even though that was the case, these cars were only actively produced in the 1960s. But it was during this time that Detroit was having a great streak of producing many more such muscle cars. Detroit produced some of the most interesting and powerful models that got a lot of appreciation on the road. Oldsmobile took note of this rise in car production and appreciation, and chose it to be a perfect time to release one of their greatest creations, the Starfire. This was one of the best models ever produced by the brand, and it served as inoculant for the release of models with even more massive engines. The Oldsmobiles on the bigger side came with a 394 V8 engine and had ratings of 325 HP ratings. This was not the case in the Starfire though. The Starfire delivered 330 HP, which resulted in the 1961 model being way better in terms of performance. More than being a muscle car, these cars delivered more of a luxury vibe, nevertheless, that did not stop them from having the power, incredible design, and performance that they do. 2. Chevrolet Monte Carlo, SS 1983-87. Chevrolet always outdoes itself when it comes to producing some of the best cars ever. In the year 1983, the brand chose to release the SS trim level on their 1983 models, which then made them realize that it was an absolute success, and these models went on to be produced even till 1988. Anyone who has lived through the mid-80s would definitely be all praise for the Monte Carlo. 1. Cadillac Coupe de Ville, 1949. Cadillacs sure do a fine job when it comes to producing luxury cars, but did you know if it's successful in the muscle car scene? The SUL 49 Cadillac brought out an entirely new design and was basically the trendsetter for what we now know as chrome fins. Under the hood, you'll find a 331 CID V8. This engine was given a lot of praises back in the day for its production of 160 HP. And with that, we have come to the end of our list of muscle cars produced in Detroit. Which of these is your favorite? Feel free to let us know in the comments section down below. You can't talk about American muscle without mentioning Ford. Find out the 10 fastest Ford muscle cars ever. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.